Hello and welcome to the Truth Channel Inspired. Whether you're listening on the podcast via Spotify, Apple, whatever it is, or you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. This week, we are going to be talking about comparison. I think we've all heard about the fact that, comparison isn't a good thing when it comes to comparing ourselves to other people. And we know that it has negative effects on our self-esteem and that social media can be playing a huge role in this huge comparison pandemic kind of that we have going on. But what I want to talk about today is a little bit different side of comparison. So stay tuned for the truth about comparison. I, Lindsay Frederick, promise to tell the truth, the full truth, and nothing but the truth. So the truth about comparison is that it can hinder us from being unique. Whether we're aware of it or not, we are constantly just comparing ourselves to the people around us. It's how we come to an understanding of who we are within society. Like, I wouldn't know that I'm a pretty laid back person. I didn't think that until I was living in a room with 12 other girls, and there would be things that would really bother them and the majority of the room, but for me, I was just kind of like, whatever. So our self-perceptions a lot of times comes from looking at other people and seeing, oh, I'm really similar to them in that way, or oh, here's where we differ, and thus that is how I come to conclusion of who I am, of oh, I'm short, I'm tall, I'm laid back, I'm whatever it is by comparing to other people. So this is a really common thing we do, and it can be a healthy thing when it comes to like, oh, I see someone and they are at this point in life and I want to be there. So what have they done in their life that I could change and do myself? And that's a huge thing within business, is like, what are the steps I need to take to get to this spot in my business? And kind of like seeing, oh, I can be different from this company in this way, or I can be similar in this way. You know what I mean? Like, it can be a healthy thing. However, comparison becomes dangerous when we begin to compare and then conform. And so this goes back to what I said earlier, is that the truth about comparison is that it can kill our uniqueness. Or one friend put it to me at one point in my life, comparison kills creativity. And I loved that, and that was so eye-opening to me. And as I've kind of held on to that, it's come up in different areas of my life, and I've seen that that is truth. So comparison can cause us to lose our uniqueness because we then try to conform to what we see. More often than not, when we compare ourselves to people, we are comparing ourselves to people who we see as having more than ourselves, or that we deem better than ourselves. Psychology calls this comparing up. It's an actual thing. I kind of talk about this during the Truth About Generosity week, when we talked about how rich we actually are, majority of us, but we never feel rich because we're always comparing ourselves to someone that's richer than us. So that would be the comparing up mindset. And because of this, because we're consistently usually comparing ourselves to people who have more than us, we're never satisfied with where we're at, because we're always striving for more. We're always striving to get there. And this form of comparison is unhealthy because it pits human against human. Suddenly it's like, that person that has more than me, I'm envious of them. I'm jealous of them. I don't want to see them succeed usually. I want to be them. I want to be there instead of them being there, And suddenly it's just like, we're in this competition with usually someone we don't even know, or even worse, someone that we do know. So like I said, it's pitting human against human, and within comparison, someone is always going to lose, and that is usually ourselves. We're always just going to be harder on ourselves, especially when we are comparing up. Then usually we are the ones that are losing in this comparison mindset. That just looks like thinking like, oh, this person has more than me, I'm lacking. Oh, this person is thinner than me or stronger than me, I'm weak, I'm fat, whatever it is that we're thinking, we are usually the loser in that situation. And so ultimately, when we're in that mindset, we come to the conclusion of, I need this, or I need to be like that in order to be happy, in order to fit in order to be successful, whatever it is. And then you get there, you lose that weight, you get that paycheck, you get whatever you've been striving after, and suddenly we're not satisfied and we size up again. We find someone else to look up to that has more than us. Again, we compare upwards, and suddenly there's a new goal. It's, oh, okay, now you've lost 30 pounds, but now you want to lose 30 more and be able to do this, And that's not a bad thing. Like I said, there's a healthy balance, but it can become toxic when we're all trying to strive after this one image and this one goal, and all just trying to become each other, you know? Have you ever stopped to think that the person that you're comparing yourself to, who makes it seem like they have it all together and their life is awesome and they love themselves and they're perfectly happy, have you ever thought that they also are comparing themselves to someone else? You know, it's just this game of like everyone's trying to become everyone. We're all just trying to conform to each other to try and fit in, and we are losing the unique and the creative parts of ourselves because we're trying to look like everyone else. And this is something that I've really actually struggled with just this past week, and that's why I wanted to speak on it, because it's a very relevant thing that I'm struggling with. I'm not saying I've conquered this thing of comparing myself to other people around me. No, it's something I struggle with, and I want to speak on it so that other people can see this perspective of what is really going on in our heads and some negative effects that this type of comparing can have. So, I mean, even with starting this channel, I remember when I was setting up this set for YouTube, it was like, oh, if I'm going to be a YouTuber, I have to have the ring light, I have to have a mic, I have to have a white wall with some sort of like clean background and good lighting, you know? And I wanted to conform to that YouTube image, and as you can see, I have. But did I need to do that in order to be a YouTuber? No. And sometimes I think, hey, you know, was there something cooler or different I could have done with just this set or whatever I have going for me right now? And maybe there was, but because I felt like I had to fit into the YouTuber or the podcasting style, I conformed, you know? And something specifically this week that I've been struggling with is my music. You know, I was recording a song this week and I was getting really frustrated because I was like, my voice doesn't sound like what I hear on the radio. You know, my voice is different. And that I was getting really down on myself. And I was like, I don't even want to record. I'm not a good singer. Like all these things going through my head. Just because I was comparing myself to people like Ariana Grande, you know, comparing upwards again. And then as I was just sitting and praying about it, God was like, Lindsay, I didn't give you a voice to sound like other voices, you know, like I created you with your voice, and I created you to write songs in this way, not to write songs in this way, you know, like God has given me specific qualities to my voice and specific ways that I write my music that's not going to look like other people, and that's okay. But when I start to compare myself and I start to conform, then I'm losing all these specific unique gifts that God has created me with, you know? And so that has been really challenging me this week as I kind of like take this step forward in recording my music, of accepting the fact that, hey, I'm different, you know, I'm not going to sound like every other person on the radio or on whatever, and that's okay. And so that's what I want to kind of talk about next is, okay, we see that, you know, we tend to, one, compare upwards, and two, that comparing ourselves and then trying to conform to those images is causing us to lose out on the specific gifts and the specific unique qualities that God has given us. So what can we do and how can we stop? As I was praying about it, and what God has been teaching me this week is that the opposite of comparison is contentedness. I don't even know if that's a word, or just being content, I guess. But it's like, I can either sit here and record my music and consistently be in my head and be like, I don't sound like this person. And honestly, like at one point in my recording sessions, I was literally like trying to adjust my voice because I know how to sound like that. I can if I want, but that's not naturally how I sing, you know? And so I started to change my voice to try and sound like this. And I felt very ingenuine and I was just like, I don't like this either. And so I can either conform or I can be content and come to terms with, hey, God has given me this voice for a reason, and I'm happy with that, and I'm content. We need to be content with who we are, what we've been given, and stop comparing upwards in order to conform to what we see. Romans 12:2 kind of talks about this. It says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and prove what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. And so whether you're Christian or not, whether you believe that the Bible is truth or not, I think we can all agree that this comparison mindset is toxic. And in order to get out of this, we need to be aware of our thoughts, because comparison starts with looking, seeing what we're lacking in, and then thinking and agreeing with that thought that, hey, I'm lacking in this, I need to conform in this way. So it is kind of like a mind thing. And Paul right now is talking about renewing your mind, meaning it's an active process of stopping comparative thoughts when you acknowledge them coming into your head. So it's like, I struggle with comparing numbers. I see other influencers and they have like 1 million views, 1 million subscribers, whatever it is. And I'm over here like, oh, if I could just get 1 million views or 1 million subscribers, like then I'd be happy. And God's like, no, Lindsay, when you get 1 million, you're going to want 2 million. And when you get 2 million, you're going to want 5 million. It's always going to be comparing up. And so when those thoughts come in my head, it's like, one, what's the lie? The lie is that I'm going to be happy when I hit 10,000. That's the more realistic goal right now. That's the lie. And so then it's taking that and being like, no, I'm content with what I have right now because I'm thankful that God has given me this platform and that God has given me this channel to do this, and learning to be content where I'm at. Now, there's a healthy balance, obviously, from just like being content and having goals. Like, I'm not saying don't set goals. Don't not set goals to like lose 20 pounds. That's great. Just don't compromise your image, your gifts, your talents, whatever it is that you've been given that sets you apart in order to look like the goal that you have. Your goals should be specific to you and unique to you because you are unique. One passage I want to bring up that we've brought up in the past, 1 Corinthians 12:15-26. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in fact, God has placed the parts in the body, every one of them, just as he wanted them to be. If they were all one part, where would the body be? I think this is a great example of the fact that we were not all created to be exactly like each other. And when we conform, we really do lose valuable talents and skills and abilities and looks and images that we need. We weren't all created to be the same. And so we need to be content and acknowledge and be okay with our differences that we have and actually emphasize those so we can bring variety and creativity and innovation to our society. I believe that God has created us each with specific gifts, specific purposes that are specific and unique to us. Let's not lose out on those things because we're trying to conform to what someone else looks like, because that someone else also has something completely different. As similar as we may be on the same path of doing music or something, but still their path is going to look so different because they have different gifts, different abilities, different ways that they interact with people. Like, just because we are on the same path doesn't mean you have to conform to exactly the way that person is doing it either. Are you conforming because of comparison, or are you staying firm and content in the unique abilities that God has given you? And if you don't believe that God has given you a purpose or unique skills and talents and gifts and image, whatever you look like, I would challenge you to really reflect and consider that. Because the truth is that He has created you specifically in the way that you are for a reason. I pray that you would just ask Him, why do I look like this? Why do I have this ability? Why am I really good at listening, God? And see how you can emphasize that rather than conform and suppress it. So that's all I have for you today. If you like this podcast, if you like this YouTube channel, I encourage you to share it so that more people can hear, because ultimately our goal with this channel is to reach as many people with truth and freedom from these things that just kind of like trap us through the truth of God. And so that's all I have for you this week. And as always, there will be more.